It's like a big fruit by the foot. You just keep on rolling. Like a gigantic toilet roll.
Hey guys, you can't see. It's rolling.
It's more than one ply.
Forbidden cinnamon roll.
Cinnamon roll. Good morning, friends. You're watching Living Soil Tree Farm. My name's Nick. If you're new here, it is pretty sunny today. I forgot my sunglasses, but I want to talk about mulch in living soil systems. That's the goal for today. Mulch is relatively simple. You're just throwing organic matter on the ground, but there are a lot of nuances to be aware of, especially in a living soil system. Different types of mulch, what they're good at, what they're bad at. So I think the way that I want to do this video is I had my family in town this past weekend to help me spread all of this wonderful hay mulch on the garden and the nursery. I think it looks excellent. We got this whole pad done. It took 4 big round bales of hay to get this whole pad done. And I'm going to cut the footage of that right now. But if you're interested in learning in more about the nuances of mulch, different types of mulch, some of the things that I've learned throughout my years as a, whatever you want to label me, a nurseryman, a gardener, a homesteader, agroforester, whatever. I want to share some of those details. We'll do that at the end. I'll put up here what the timestamp is to cut to if that's primarily why you're here. But otherwise, enjoy this little time with my family spreading mulch, and we'll see you at the end.
On any raspberries.
Look how much better this looks with mulch down. This is crazy how much difference just a few hours makes. It's barely been 1 hour. Oh yeah, an hour. Wow, look how purple that stem is. That bale kind of disappeared quickly, huh?
Yeah.
Makes a difference being able to tear into it right away.
Yeah. Well, it really just makes a difference with 5 of us here. I mean, this is like.
Am I going all the way down here?
We will eventually, but we don't have to worry about that right now. I can do that later.
Those frogs? That's a frog.
That's a frog.
Oh, I can't wait for the tree frogs to start. That's going to be a while. Once the tree frog starts, I love it.
Heave-ho. Who needs a tractor? Except that we definitely needed the tractor to get him up here.
Oh no. Oh wait. All right.
Well-planned operating corridor by me. Nice and wide. Plenty of room to use.
You need a pivot or not? Okay.
Do you want me to... Luca, do you remember where you put the snips?
No.
Or did I give them to Sydney?
I don't remember where I put them.
I think I gave them to Sydney. One last pivot. Look at that. All right, now we just got to go grab the snips. All right, so now, Luca, if you kind of peel that a little bit.
Back here?
Yeah, peel towards you. See if we can just get one layer started. Without flinging it on your dad too much, maybe. All right, now you should theoretically be able to start rolling and just leaving it behind you.
All right. Theoretically, of course. Wait, there's still a piece that hasn't been.
You got it? Okay. All right.
Is it falling away?
Not quite
It
as
is.
much as.
It is.
Yeah, you might have to.
It's like a lot.
Let it go. Let it go.
Like a gigantic toilet roll.
Hey guys, you
Yeah.
can't see. It's rolling. You don't have to pull.
It's more than one ply. More than one ply, he
Wait,
says.
stop.
Yeah, we're gonna have to pivot to get around. You might be able to just roll right over this thing.
Are you sure about that?
I'll bend it.
I think you left a lot of extra back here.
I think it's gonna come off now.
I don't think you have to pull it. It's fine.
There we go.
Nick, do they have to fill like that?
Yeah, I mean, we can use the extra to widen it out, you know.
It's like a big fruit by the foot. You just keep on rolling.
I hate when the toilet roll does this, so the inside starts to slide out.
Forbidden cinnamon roll.
Cinnamon roll. Okay, so here's a little bit of context, right? This area used to be a conventional nursery. When we got here, there was landscape fabric like this covering the whole area. This is the last piece of remaining landscape fabric. We've removed the rest of it. Once we've removed it, we had bare exposed clay. I'm going to show you what that looks like right over here. And as I was pulling a lot of that landscape fabric up, we made some videos of it. You can see clay here, right? Bare clay. As I was making these videos, a lot of people asked me, hey, if you don't use landscape fabric, you know, some people got confused. They're like, what the heck? What do you do for weeds then, right? Landscape fabric is supposed to be such a good solution for keeping the weeds down in a context like this. What the heck do you do without it? I never know who's going to be watching these videos, so maybe you're someone that was asking that question, or maybe you're someone who knows the answer that I'm going to give to that already, which is mulch, right? The landscape fabric is there to suppress weeds. It has a finite lifespan. Eventually it will get holes in it, soil will be deposited on top of it, weeds will grow. You'll have to pull it all up and replace it. It's a pain in the butt. I really don't like dealing with it. It sheds a lot of microplastics. I'm not here to judge you if you use it, but my solution is instead use mulch. And mulch, if you're new to this, very briefly, very simple explanation, organic matter that's deposited on the surface of the soil, usually carbon heavy. A lot of our mulches come from trees, so think wood chips, bark mulch, sawdust, leaves. This happens to be hay that I'm using. Hay comes from grass, obviously not trees, so it doesn't have to come from trees, but organic material, typically high in carbon, that's being deposited on the surface of the soil. And yes, it can work very well to suppress weeds. Now, different types of mulch, different types of weeds interact differently, and the depth of mulch that you're using can play a big role. We're going to talk about that, but mulch can certainly be used to suppress weeds like landscape fabric can. I value it more, however, from the perspective of retaining moisture in the soil, slowing down evaporation, so that when we get dry spells, when we get droughts, we can retain that moisture in the soil for longer. Right? We're just slowing down the process of water leaving the soil. Additionally, your mulch is going to start to break down. It's going to create humus. It's going to add organic matter into your soil. It's going to support the growth of microbes, plant roots, all sorts of stuff. It's going to help support more life in your soil. We're slowing down weeds. We're increasing our water retention. All life depends on water. And we're increasing microbial activity, adding organic matter to the soil. It's all sorts of benefits to mulch. But I think one thing that I have really learned over the past several years doing all this sort of agroforestry, gardening, nursery work, homesteading, whatever you want to label me as, one of the things I've noticed is that different types of mulch behave very differently. So straw or hay, this is hay because it has seeds in it. Straw would not have seeds in it typically. This stuff is really lightweight. It's really affordable, right? We bought 4 round bales for $10 each because this was some pretty poor quality hay from a feed perspective for animals. It has a lot of broom sedge in it, which the animals don't like to eat, but cheap, lightweight. So 4 or 5 of us in, I don't know, an hour or two, and we spread mulch on this whole area. $40, easy, cheap, fast. Problem with hay is that rodents, especially burrowing rodents like voles and such, they love living under hay. So we are going to boost our rodent population, which is bad for the nursery and the garden, obviously. We do have a lot of hawks and cats and snakes around, so we're just going to watch and see. If it becomes a problem, we will start to adapt and figure out what we're doing with the rodents. But that's the major thing to worry about with hay is rodents. You also do need to be cautious where you get hay from, because a lot of farmers that make hay will use persistent herbicides that persistent. They don't break down quickly. Can be a problem for plants. Luckily, this local farmer does not use any of those chemicals, so this stuff is safe to use in the garden, but that is something else you need to be careful with hay. So different types of material for different use. Hay is cheap and lightweight. So if you have a big area to cover, hay is pretty good to consider. Wood chips, on the other hand, I think are the best for supporting microbial growth, for adding structure to the soil. Just for soil building, I find that wood chips are the best, especially if you're trying to get woody plants established. Wood chips maybe not the best if you're trying to just do like greens in the garden, but for perennials, woody plants, soil building, I really prefer wood chips. Wood chips are kind of a hot commodity out here, and they're heavy. If I wanted to do this whole area on wood chips, if I had to buy that in and haul it in, that would be a huge expense and a lot of labor to get it all spread. It would be dope, be awesome, but it would be a lot. So in my specific context, the wood chips go to nursery needs first for potting plants, mulching potted plants, building, nursery beds, that sort of thing. Then the wood chips go to the garden next. Now, just briefly on wood chips, one thing on the topic of aging. Some people will get upset. They'll say fresh wood chips, if you put those on your garden, you're going to rob your plants of nitrogen. They'll get all sick and pale. They won't grow. It can be true. What they're saying is that wood chips require nitrogen, or microbes that decompose wood chips, they require nitrogen to do that decomposition. And so when wood chips are fresh, the process of them breaking down in the soil can take up nitrogen that would otherwise be available for plant roots. What I have found, practically speaking, is that if you have good soil in an area you've been gardening in for years, if it's loose, it has organic matter, it's rich, I've put down fresh wood chips and seen no problem. If you're coming into an area that was turf grass or compacted clay, poor soil, and you're gardening for the first year and you're putting down fresh wood chips, you're not going to see a good response that year. Also, if you're going to till, some people till their wood chips into their soil instead of mulching, they want to add it in as like an organic matter. That will also rob nitrogen kind of deeper down in the soil while they're first starting to break down. So if you're really worried about this, age your wood chips 6 months to a year before you apply them. I don't really worry about it unless it's in a fresh context, right? Fresh new garden area. Another pattern I've noticed, definitely the woody plants seem much more tolerant of fresh wood chips than the sort of more annual garden plants. I would say that fall leaves are pretty similar to wood chips in that they're very good at building soil. One thing I found with leaves, especially if you get them fresh in the fall, they often tend to be dry and they can blow away. They're not very heavy, so wetting them down as you apply them can help them kind of stay in one place. Sawdust is another one. Sawdust, and actually I would include any bark mulch in this category of the sawdust is a very fine particulate size, so it can compact and it can actually become hydrophobic, meaning that water does not want to be absorbed into it, right? It wants to shed the water off of it. Bark is the same way. If you think about bark, whether it's ground up or not, because you can usually buy, commercial ground up bark mulch, the bark is designed to keep things out of the inside of the tree, right? And keep what's inside of the tree inside. It's like skin. It does the same thing on the ground. So for pathways, this can be really good mulch. I like to use sawdust and bark in the pathways. I don't like to use them in my garden beds directly, especially when they're fresh and not decomposed, as they can tend to sheet water away from the garden bed, which is not what I want. Now, as they break down, they start to turn into humus. They become, that problem goes away. So I like to follow a pattern of mulches like that, sawdust, wood chips. They can go in the pathway. As they break down, then I can plop them onto the bed. I sort of use straw and hay the same way, where I'll put it down in the pathway oftentimes, and as it breaks down, I'll put it into the bed, mostly because I'm trying to discourage voles in the bed. I'd prefer to use wood chips or fall leaves in my active growing garden beds, if I can. Now, the depth that you go is important. I would say anything in the 4 to 6 inch range is very safe for all of your woody plants, as long as you're not too close to the base of the trunk of a big tree. You don't want to do those mulch volcanoes, that you see in a lot of our city urban infrastructure. Those mulch volcanoes can kill the trees. It can cause the roots to kind of circle around in that mulch and constrict the tree if you weren't aware. But 4 to 6 inches is a good depth for mulch. You can go with less, you can go with more, but the more you go, the harder it is for any seeds or sprouts to come up through the soil. The less you go, the easier it is for stuff to sprout up through the soil. So depending on what you're planting, if you're planting in transplants, you can easily move the mulch out of the way, stick the transplant in and kind of, shape the mulch around the transplant. That's no problem, whether you're at 2 inches, 3 inches, 8 inches of mulch. If you are trying to plant seeds, you need to consider, will your seeds have enough energy to poke up through that mulch? Wood chips and fall leaves are very easy for plants to poke up through. Straw and hay can get kind of tangled and be a little bit harder to poke up through. But the same goes for weed seeds, and we also need to remember that not all weeds are the same. Some weeds easily propagate by seeds. Some of them spread through horizontal roots. So the plant is here, it will send out advantageous roots underground and then pop up more shoots. Those plants are challenging to control with mulch, especially our grasses like Bermuda grass, wiregrass, think like vining plants, honeysuckle, poison ivy, think blackberries. All of these plants propagate really easily through spreading roots. It's hard to contain them with mulch. It can be hard to contain them with landscape fabric sometimes even. So I find it best if you're dealing with problematic plants like that, you're gonna have to do a lot of weeding. Even if you mulch, it can be best to eliminate those plants before you put the mulch down, kind of reset the area, get those roots out of there if you can. Alternatively, you can try to use a barrier that will break down over time like cardboard. Put the cardboard down and then the mulch. One thing to consider with a lot of people really advocate for that cardboard. They call it, what do they call it? Lasagna mulch, right? This is a big permaculture idea that people use. It is cool. It is fun. But the cardboard can temporarily kind of suffocate the soil. It's not completely depriving it of oxygen. You will find worms and fungi and critters growing on the cardboard, but it is slowing down oxygen and water being able to penetrate into the soil. So it might not be totally optimum. I don't really think it's that bad, but I'd like to provide a different take than everyone who just says it's awesome. Okay, it's the middle of the road. There's some consequences to it. It's not a big deal. It's okay. But it is something I think worth thinking about and knowing if you're going to go down that route. Anyway, there's some thoughts on mulch. It's hot and humid. I've got other chores I got to get to. I think that'll wrap it up for here. I will end with this. If you're using, one of the problems with mulch is sourcing. Depending on where you live, it can be challenging to source the ideal mulch that you want. For me, the hard one is wood chips. The wood chips I'm after are what comes out of the back of a chipping truck that an arborist company would use. Sometimes they're called arborist chips. They're coarsely ground up. There's leaves, there's wood chips, there's bits of sticks. It's the texture of that is very good. When you go and buy wood chip mulch from a landscape supply center, it's different. They typically, whether they advertise it like this or not, it's typically what they call triple ground. It comes through a chipper and then it might go through another chipper to get ground up more finely, a little bit more uniformly. Oftentimes they're adding in dyes. A lot of the times there's a lot of bark in this material. Basically, I find that the dyed mulch, the triple ground mulch, the common available landscape quality mulch, it's better than nothing, friends, but it is not the same quality as chips that come out the back of an arborist truck. I just find that as it breaks down, it really has a tendency, there's a period of time in its decomposition where it is very hydrophobic, like bark mulch, like sawdust. So it's fine for pathways. I have not had good success using that in the garden. I try to avoid it. It's also expensive, so it's probably not what you want to use at a large scale, but sometimes if you want wood chips, that might be all that's available. It feels worth noting. Anyway, friends, as always, I appreciate you for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts, comments, questions. What questions do you have about mulch? You know where to put them down there. Catch you later.
Oh.